Well, howdy friends, Brian Flechsig of Mad River Outfitters in the Midwest Fly Fishing Schools, and welcome back to another one of our Q&A series. You know, I think I say it every time, we really appreciate all of your questions. We literally get hundreds of questions per day, and we try to respond to them all. And for those of you that we do get you into a video here, we will, of course, get you out a hat and a fly box. Remember, as always, to send those questions over to admin@madriveroutfitters.com. That's where questions are answered. We really can't get to them on social media or the comments on YouTube. Make sure to send all your questions to admin@madriveroutfitters.com. And if you need immediate assistance, pick up the phone and give us a call. We're a fly shop. That's what we do, is customer service. So let's jump right in. And our first question today comes to us from Greg Andre from Hinsdale, Illinois. And you might be wondering why I'm outside. And Greg's question has to do with about rigging up a fly rod. So Greg says, love your videos, admire your gift for teaching, and appreciate the knowledge you share. Well, thank you very much, Greg. I really appreciate that. And this seems like a dumb question, but I can't find the answer to it. Well, no questions are too dumb for Mad River Outfitters, and we will usually give you the answer to it. So picture this. You are out fly fishing. Got it? You have some line, a leader, tippet, and a fly tied on, all extending past your fly rod tip. Yes. And you want to walk upstream a ways to the next pool, or maybe even downstream. How do you stow everything away to walk to the next spot? If you hook the fly in a hook keeper or the cork handle and reel the line and leader until taut, you then have to pull the line and leader out through the guides when you reach next spot to fish, which is a bit of a hassle, especially if you do that many times a day. Is there a better way? And Greg, there is a better way, and I'm about to show you. And in all fairness, this was shown to me by Flip Palette many years ago. And this is how Flip does it. This is how you should do it. And there are several advantages to doing it this way. So, yes, you've got your line, your leader, and your fly outside the tip of the rod. I never, ever use a hook keeper. There's no reason to have a hook keeper on a rod. I don't ever use it. There's a reason why a lot of 7-weights and up don't have a hook keeper, okay? Here's how you can do this. Come up to one of the strip guides, and I usually go up to the second stripping guide, okay? And you come around the reel as such. Just come right around the butt of the reel, and then you can go ahead and tighten this thing up. And you'll see that that keeps plenty of a line outside the tip of the rod, and it keeps my leader well outside the tip of the rod. And of course that prevents that knot from being through the tip of the rod, which you don't want to bring through, or like you said, it's kind of a hassle. And it also prevents your leader from getting kinked up over time. Now here's a cool little trick to this, okay? Take the, what's going to be the leader right now, and you're going to come around going clockwise. You're going once and twice right around that stripping guide. And you see what that does is it buttons everything up nice and tight. You don't have the leader and the excess fly line hanging out there. So it's not getting caught on stuff while you're moving. It's not running the risk of this coming loose and the fly dragging or catching on anything behind you. And also, if you're like me and you throw your rods in the back of your pickup truck, or you're stowing them in the boat, that prevents, we've all had this happen, that prevents your lines from getting all tangled up and your line or your leader twisting around another one of the rods that are stacked up there. So a lot of benefits to doing this. And then when you get to the spot, you're going to take that leader, you're going to go once, twice in a clockwise motion, take it out from behind your reel, And actually, this especially works if you're standing on the nose of a boat. Now you've got this hanging there. You can go like that, and you are ready to go. Just literally just tap the butt section of the rod, then you can start to pull line right off the reel, and off you go. It is a slick way of doing this. So again, just attach your fly to the butt, or excuse me, to one of the stripping guides. Let's get this right. Attach that to the stripping guide. Now I don't typically, I go into the foot of the stripping guide. I don't go into the stripping guide itself. Probably not a big deal, but I don't want to damage the ceramic or some of the other coatings that they use for those stripping guides. And literally just come right around the reel as such. I've seen people who go around the reel foot. That can kind of kink up your line a little bit too much, or your leader a little bit too much. I come around the circumference of the reel, tighten it up once, twice around, and lock it right into that first stripping guide. And then when you get there, or you're picking up your rod out of the rod holder, you're going to grab that and come once, twice, take it out from behind the reel, give it a pop, that fly comes off, and you're ready to go. That leader is always outside the rod tip. You're not kinking up the leader. Usually, you might get a little kink in the line, but it's usually not much, and nothing that a little stretch won't fix. So there you go, Greg. I appreciate you checking with us. We'll get you out a hat and a fly box and try that, and let me know how it goes. So let's head back in, because the next couple of questions here on this episode have to do with, you guessed it, leaders. All right, back inside, friends, where it's nice and warm and toasty. It's fall of 2020 and things are starting to get a little chilly out there, which means old Brian's probably about ready to start tying flies.
Yeah, boy.
But anyways, we continue on today, Q&A. And this question comes to us from Patrick Brucoli. I apologize if I mispronounced that. I wanted to say broccoli, but we'll say Brucoli or Brusoli. Patrick Brusoli from Louisville, Kentucky. Regardless, Patrick, thanks as always. Hello, love your YouTube videos. Keep up the good work. Thank you, Patrick. We will. My question is, when I try to fish a hopper dropper or two flies with an indicator, my flies always seem to get twisted and tangled. I usually fish with just 8 to 9 feet of light line and not a tapered leader. Well, Patrick, we've just answered your question. I've said this time and time again, and it's fine. I'll keep saying it until this starts to make sense, at least to the majority of you. I know there's some of you out there that are just going to swear that just a straight piece of 8-pound mono, which doesn't, I don't even know what 8 pound is. A pound test has nothing to do with this, but that's beside the point. You cannot. Well, you can. This is America.
It's America.
You can if you want to, but like you say right there, your flies always seem to get twisted and tangled. And of course, Patrick, your leader is a pipe, okay? And your leader is a pipe that carries energy from the tip of your fly line to the flies. And you're attaching that leader to the tip of the fly line, and the butt section of your leader must be a similar stiffness to the tip of your fly line. It has to be. It's a pipe. You're a plumber of energy. And what you're doing is you're attaching a fat pipe, which is your fly line, to a really skinny pipe, which is your whatever you use, 8 to 9 foot of light line. And right here, right there, all that energy coming off the tip of your fly line, it has nowhere to go because of that skinny line. The energy spills all over the place. It's going to flop around like a wet piece of spaghetti. And of course, your flies will always get twisted and tangled. You must use a tapered leader, and the stiffness of the butt section must be similar to the stiffness of the tip of your fly line. Of course, it depends on exactly what you're doing. For example, a streamer leader, or what we call a contact fly fishing leader, streamers, bass bugs, bonefish flies, tarpon flies, pike and muskie flies, bluegill for that matter, that's contact fly fishing. I need the energy to go all the way to the fly. Okay, we need a particular butt section for that. Nymph fishing and dry fly fishing, what we call non-contact fly fishing, they might require slightly different butt sections, but for the most part, you're fishing 2 flies with an indicator. You have got to have some stiffness in the butt section in order for it to turn those flies over. It's simple 8th grade physics. Sorry to reprimand, but you've got to use a tapered leader. You cannot just tie 8 to 9 foot of light line to your fly line. Okay, you can, this is America, but it's not gonna work, okay? So, as always, Patrick, I hope that helps. I know it will, because this is physics. This is not an opinion. This is not something that I made up. This is simple physics on transfer of energy from the tip of the fly line into that butt section of the leader, and then you taper it down to an appropriate size tippet based on the size of the flies that you're trying to cast. So, plenty more to come on this. I think, as you know, we've got a lot coming at you on leaders. It is the second most important piece of gear that you own. Your leader is your second most important piece of gear that you own, and you could argue it's the most important piece of gear. There's actually people out there that will tell you that your leader doesn't matter and that you can just attach a piece of monofilament, and you should, I'm sorry, but you should not listen to those people. In fact, you should run away from those people because they're ignoring simple, basic physics. So there you go, Patrick. I hope that helps. Let me know how much better your casting gets and how many flies, how much money I just saved you on flies just by using a simple tapered leader. Let us know if you have any further questions, and we'll get you out the hat in a fly box. And Keith Cargill from Mountain Rest, South Carolina, chimes in with also another question on leaders. Keith says, hello, love your videos. Thanks for taking the time to make them. Well, Keith, thanks for taking the time to watch them. We appreciate it. Not too long ago, I was on the river practicing casting, and I got a big wind knot. Parentheses, thanks to one of your awesome videos, I know, at least theoretically, how to avoid wind knots. I couldn't untie the knot, so I ended up cutting my leader. I now have a 5-foot leader instead of a 9-foot leader. My question is, can I salvage the leader? Can I just tie on 4 foot of 4X tippet? Do I need to tie in a couple of feet of heavier tippet and then tie in the 4X tippet? Should I just trash the leader and start over with a new one and chalk it up to experience? Thank you for sharing your valuable time and expertise. Keith, P.S. I'm including my address. Good, you listened. In case you decide to send me one of your coveted hats and fly box. Well, Keith, here you are in a video, and we are going to send you a coveted hat and a fly box. So let's have a look at this. And this is something that we have covered before, but I know there's a lot of videos out there, but let's do this again because, again, this is so wildly important. Your leader is your second most important piece of gear. I really don't care what your fly rod is. I really don't care what your fly reel is. I don't care what kind of underwear you have on. Your leader is your second most important piece of gear next to your fly. And you might be able to argue, in fact, stay tuned, we'll get into that argument. I'll argue with myself about which is actually the most important. So let's look at this, Keith, real quick. All right, so you had a 4X leader, okay? So your butt section, tapered down. Let's say you're fishing with a 9-foot leader. You got about 7 foot of taper on the butt section, and we've got about 2 foot of tippet, roughly, on average. Okay, so you cut back to where you say instead of a 9-foot leader, your leader was now 5 foot. Okay, so we're gonna go, that would be 2 foot off of here, and whatever, let's just cut it right about there so that this is 5 foot. Okay, the chances are this was 4x tippet. Excuse me, let me go back and make sure that we understand this. Okay, if we look at your average taper, okay, so this is roughly 2 foot of 4x. Okay, just the nature of taper, you're going to have to assume that there's a little bit of 3x diameter there. There's a little bit of 2x diameter there. There's a little bit of 1x, etc., etc. Probably all the way up to, say, somewhere around 19 or even 22 thousandths, maybe even thicker in the butt section, depending on the leader and or depending on what line you have it attached to. So you see this tapers down. And again, to go back to that last video, I've got to have that stiffness and diameter and able to absorb the energy coming off the tip of my fly line. Simple 8th grade physics. But Keith, here we go. Okay, you cut this back to where we go bam. Okay, and let's just say, we don't know for sure, but let's just say that you cut it back and now the diameter where you cut it off is, say, 1x. And your question is, can you just add 4 foot of 4x tippet? You really can't, not if you want this to work, okay? The transfer of energy is going to work best if you don't skip more than about 2 thousandths. Again, on average, there's exceptions, and stay tuned because we've got a lot of great leader formulas coming at you with the book, The End of the Line, and in coming videos. But you typically don't want to skip more than about 2 thousandths. So if you just attached 1x to a 4x tippet, you can see that you've got a really fat pipe trying to feed energy into a really skinny pipe. You're going to have energy spilling all over the place. You're going to have a hinge right there, and that leader is going to collapse. It's just not going to properly turn over the fly that you're trying to cast. Simple physics. So no, and not to mention 4 foot of 4x tippet. If you've got 4 foot of tippet that makes up the bulk of your 9 foot leader, that's not going to be a good situation either. Okay, so no, you really can't do that from a physics or a science standpoint. And let's say you're on 1x. You know, I suppose to keep things simple, we could probably just put a connector, say, of 3x. So if we did skip 2x, not that big of a deal. I'm not making a bigger than 2 thousandths of an inch jump. It would be theoretically best if we did put a piece of 2x and 3x, but you can get away with this connector piece of 3x. And let's just say you put in, okay, you went down to 5 foot here. Let's say you went 1.5 foot, so we're 6.5 foot, and maybe you did then 2 or just a little longer than 2 foot of 4x tippet, and now you're in the ballpark. This should theoretically work. So your second question is, do I need to tie in a couple feet of heavier tippet and then tie in the 4x tippet? Yes, you really should. Should I just trash the leader and start over with a new one and chalk it up to experience? Well, that's kind of up to you. It's your money, but you know, and it depends on how many spools of tippet that you have on your person at the time, and it depends on how much trouble you want to go through and how many knots that you want to tie. Let's say that this was a 6x tippet. Okay, let's say we started off with a 6x tippet and I've gotten a wind knot or got this stuck in a tree or something, and now I'm down to 1x. I probably wouldn't go through the trouble of rebuilding this to make it a 6x. You're going to have a piece of 3x, you're going to have a piece of 4x or 5x, and then you're going to have a piece of 6x on the tippet to get that to work. That might be a little too labor intensive, and it might be a little bit easier for you to just pull a fresh 6X leader out of the pack. So I think the bottom line is that you can't just randomly add 4X tippet. Here's something that I tell people a lot. I send this answer questions via email. Your butt section, you must keep the taper intact. Remember that, and I think it will help a lot of you out. You must keep the taper of that leader intact, okay? And if you do that, you should be in good shape. You're not attaching 4X to 1X. You're not attaching 6X to 2X, or worse yet, 0X. Keep the taper of that leader intact. Keep your tippet fresh and approximately 18 to 24 inches on average. And as long as you do that, that leader will work just fine. As soon as you start to stray and you start attaching thick pipes to thin pipes, just like in a previous question, it's going to cause you trouble. And you've got to get this right, friends. Your leader is your second most important piece of gear. Again, if anybody tells you out there that your leader doesn't matter, which those people are out there, and they'll probably chime in on the comments down below us, which is why I don't pay any attention to it. So there you have it, Keith. Right, Keith? Mountain Rest, South Carolina. Sounds like a cool place to live. We appreciate it. We'll send you out the hat and a fly box. So there you go, friends. That's enough talking for today. I, as always, appreciate you being here. Send those questions over to admin@madriveroutfitters.com. Remember, I don't go on social media and I can't monitor the comments down here. I have to actually work here at Mad River Outfitters and film videos. So send those questions over to admin@madriveroutfitters.com. If we use them here on the YouTube channel, we'll send you a hat and a fly box. And as always, be sure to subscribe, hit the like button, and stay tuned because we've got a lot more coming at you. If you like this video, hit subscribe. It helps out a lot. And check out these videos. We think you might like them too.